demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all is lost, but I know it's not true. I wanna put up all my walls cause I'm not in the mood, but then I cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that time can heal it all if you're patient and soon. It can all be worth it, all the searching. Pain is never really permanent, but damn it hurts, man. I could feel all of the turbulence and it's concerning. I've been searching for a purpose, I hope it's worth it. This society is really trying me. Ain't no hide and seek, I hide to be far from anxiety. I need my space, I need my privacy. I need some silence, please, you're all too loud. You don't speak quietly, opinions violently thrown across every surface. It makes me nervous, it's the world honestly burning. That's all I'm learning, hope that we can make a turn and start reversing. All our minds, we put the work in, we got some work, man. I started to go. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through. Gotta get through this, life is a nuisance, tie up some loose ends. I try to be human, find a solution, my evolution. A place like this, it didn't exist, we made it like this. So you can go pick the bad or the good, got a glass halfway. I know, it's easier to hide than just to lay low. Not everyone in life has got a halo. I'm standing in the red inside a payphone, just wanna break, no. I'm not gonna give in, take a last shot, Michael J. Win. No, I'm not a robot, I'm in my own skin. Never get lost when thoughts pull you in. I miss the old you, we died with a purpose. All the energy around me felt nervous, scared I would pop off fast to the surface. Had to cut it off before you made me worthless. Torn apart, I've been torn and scarred. I had a given art, but now I'm thinking smart. I'm keeping up my guard, I'm hiding every card. A royal flush of love, you never know what's hard. With a back to the mat, gonna see where I'm at. I'ma fight like I'm mad, I'ma be something that they can never be me. Nice try, but they'll see I achieve everything while they stay salty. I started to go. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through.
Yes, well, we got away on time on the 2nd of July, and we proceeded out the Great Eastern Highway to Coolgardie, refueled there, and then turned north and went through some new country up through to Orabanda. We arrived there. We were going to stay on the outskirts of Orabanda, and when we got there, we found that the hotel was actually closed. The Orabanda Hotel has a lot of history, and most recently, a bikie member of the Gypsy Jokers was actually shot dead outside the Orabanda Hotel. Subsequently, in retaliation, the hotel was blown up, and but now restored, as you would see from the photos. So we proceeded east to Broad Arrow, another small community where hotel. We managed to have some tea there and watched our last game of football for the trip. Turned around, came back out into the outskirts and camped there for the night. The next morning we headed back through Orabanda, through the Orabanda Battery, up through the old mining settlements that are now abandoned. Siberia, Davyhurst, on through to the old mining town of Menzies, then up the Goldfields Road, turned off into Niagara Dam. From Niagara Dam, the history with Niagara Dam was it was built to supply water to the steam engines in the area, but future town of Kookynie, they actually found water, ample amount of water there with wells or bores, I'm not sure. So the dam was never really used, but there's a lot of history there. We proceeded through Kookynie to a previous campsite, Remarkable Creek, and we camped there for the night, and we experienced the first cold weather, or cold nights, and the next morning we headed off up to out through Yundaminda, I think it was, and on to across Lake Carey, down, and no, sorry, hang on, I'm a little bit out of whack there. We went up to Red Knob Station and to visit Monica, and but she was out for the day, so we carried on to Laverton, had a shower there, and then it was all new country from there on. We headed out the White Cliff Road considerable distance and found the the Pine Creek breakaway, or Pine Creek Caves, and we camped there the night. Beautiful camp spot, and conveniently there was a huge log there, an old pine tree fallen over, and we proceeded to burn that to keep warm. The next morning we set sail for back to the Great Central Highway. We picked that up and then out to Duckarilla, and 5 kilometres east of Duckarilla. The preceding photo shows the campfire we had going in a gravel pit there. There was a convenient amount of wood pushed up with a bulldozer, so it was 1 degree that night, so we kept warm. And then the next morning we on the road again towards our next stop would be Warburton, and the photo showing here as I talk is an old Namma hole, a natural hole in the rock where runoff water runs into, and is retained there for quite some time until it either evaporates or the animals drink it dry. 2 dingoes were actually here trying to have a drink, and we frightened them off. They would have come back to it, but it's pretty putrid water. You or I wouldn't want to drink it. But anyway, we proceeded on from there, and I'll give you the details of that a bit later on in the photo story.
turkey buzzard, old turkey buzzard, flying, flying high. He's just a waiting, buzzard's just a waiting, waiting for something down below to die. Oh, buzzard knows that he can wait, 'cause every mother's son has got a date with fate, with fate. He sees men come, he sees men go, crawling like ants on the rocks below. The men who scheme, the men who dream and die for gold on the rocks below. Gold, 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 they just gotta have that gold. Gold, gold, they'll do anything for gold. Buzzard knows that he can wait, 'cause every mother's son must keep his date, a date with fate, with fate. For men will come and men will go, crawling like ants on the rocks below. But they can't win, they gotta lose their skin, if all they want is that golden gold. Gold, 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 just forget about that gold. Gold, gold, you can't live without that gold. Forget that gold. Hey, hey, you can live without that gold.
Well, we've proceeded from the campsite east of Duckarilla and out the Great Central Highway en route to Warburton. Along the here we came across an abandoned Land Cruiser left right in the middle of the road, and another 10 or 12k up the road we came across two young Aboriginal boys who were walking to Warburton, which was another 40 or 50 kilometres. We couldn't put them on board because we didn't have any room, but we did give them some water and told them we'd tell the police in Warburton of their predicament. They couldn't speak English, but we did manage to get them to understand what we were going to do. So we went to Warburton, notified the police, got some fuel, had a shower at the caravan park, and then left there, went out a number of 20 or so kilometres out of Warburton and found another gravel pit and camped there for the night. And a dingo came past the camp, a black one, and then that night after we'd settled in for the night in front of the campfire, Robbie went out into the darkness, and next thing we heard, woo, and we thought, oh yeah, Robbie just playing around. And he came running back into the camp and said, what was that? And we said, go on, Robbie, it was you trying to mimic a dingo. So all four of us were there, and then it started again. Oh, the dingo's calling. So needless to say, four of us are out there all trying to mimic dingoes. Anyway, it was a bit of fun. But the country through here, right through from Warburton through to Warrakurna or Giles, is quite magnificent country, quite flat, but I just wish we'd taken the time to smell the roses and get some more photos than what we did. But that'll be next trip. We'll take our time. And we reached Warrakurna and then went out to the Giles weather station for a tour. We couldn't go into Sladen Waters because the Warrakurna settlement is down there, and there's no admittance for outsiders. So anyway, so we proceeded out of Warrakurna and found a track into Vladimir Pass in the Swearenmural Crescent Ranges. We were stopped here by rain and very muddy conditions and could not proceed any further through the pass to Mount Jono and Carnegie Range, which was our destination. Robbie and I climbed to the top of the Swearenmural Crescent Range, which was 975 feet high. Took us 40 minutes to get there. We deposited a plaque on the top of the range and took lots of photos, which you can see. But because of the cloudy conditions and misty rain, they're not terribly clear. But then we came back and moved back from the range to an abandoned camp and stayed there the night. And then the next morning we headed en route back to Warrakurna, and then we would be entering the abandoned section of the Gun Barrel Highway to head back to Warburton. Very disappointing, and no doubt we will try it again in the coming years, but very disappointing at the time. It was extremely wet, wettest on record for many, many years. So still a good trip, and there's more to come, so we'll talk to you then. The journey through the abandoned section of the Gun Barrel Highway was very, very interesting. It was sandy conditions mostly over the sandhills, so it was very easy driving. and our camp spot along the abandoned gun barrel was among some corkwood trees, and it was a beautiful spot, and we had a very pleasant evening there, which would have been southeast of Lake Christopher. The rain had stopped at this stage, so it was very pleasant, and the next morning managed to get quite a few photos, and then we proceeded on to a waypoint I was given by a Robert Ross, who is writing a book about Lasseter. He gave me the waypoints from a map that he had recording 3 hills, and he thought they may have been the 3 ladies with bonnets that Lasseter mentioned in his diary. However, when we got to the waypoint, it turns out it was only a sand hill, but I did find something very interesting, that with the SLR camera and zoomed right in, I could pick up the western end of the Rawlinson Range, and it had 3 bumps, as you probably saw in the photographs, and I thought, well, maybe this could have been what Lasseter was referring to when he went out to Lake Christopher. But anyway, it's room for thought, and next time we go out there, we'll spend a bit more time and do a bit more investigating. We proceeded on to the end of the Gun Barrel Highway and then turned back towards Warburton. We passed the Jackie Junction, which is the start of the Gun Barrel again, but we needed fuel, so we drove down into Warburton, and as a coincidence we happened to arrive there at the same time as some friends of Tony were returning, or going to, I can't recall now, to Alice Springs. It was just a coincidence that we arrived there at the same time. But anyway, we filled up and finished our talk with them, and we headed off up the Warburton North Road, picked up the Gun Barrel Highway again, and this was quite a rough section, but we didn't get into any trouble, and then we came to the intersection of no, hang on. Before then, we went to Mount Samuel. About 4 photos back, there's a cairn of rocks built there. No plaque or anything, but someone's gone to a lot of trouble. At this point, we picked up radio signals from Brian and Karen. They were a couple travelling from Queensland, doing the Gun Barrel and the Canning Stock route and the Tanami road, I think, back to Alice Springs. It was the last of the inland tracks that they wanted to traverse. We heard them on the radio, and we actually caught up with them further along, this ahead of us now at Mount Bedell, and they travelled then with us right through and came down to our camp. But magnificent country, absolutely magnificent, and I can't wait to plan another trip out here, and maybe this time, slow down a bit, take the foot off the pedal and have a look around. But anyway, a little bit more later. Yes, so from Mount Samuel we continued to head west, and at a later Len Bedell plaque where there was a bore had been put down for people to manage to draw water if they were going the Gun Barrel Highway. We caught up with Brian and Karen, and they decided they'd stay at this particular spot for the night, and we proceeded on west to Mount Bedell, looked at the monument there, and unfortunately I cut the top of the theodolite off. It was a replica of Len Bedell's theodolite he used in mapping the Gun Barrel Highway. So that's when the rain really settled in that night. We had to rig up a temporary tarpaulin to keep us a little bit dry, but we managed to cook roast chicken and roast vegetables by grabbing shovelfuls of coals out of the big fire going out in the. It was, even though it was raining, that we had plenty of wood on it and it kept the burning, and we just grabbed the coals, covered the camp oven up with coals and cooked a chicken and roast vegetables, but unfortunately no photos. But anyway, the next day we packed up, and then Karen and Brian caught up with us, and we proceeded through very, very, very muddy and wet conditions through to Carnegie Station. We managed to book in there into a community room, and we put our swags inside, and they dried off to a degree over the night, and we took on a little bit of fuel from there. $1.50 a litre then. At that time, that was the dearest fuel for the trip. But anyway, we drove through to very many deep creeks and few scary moments, but we finally got through to Willoona, and of course the sign was up to say Gun Barrel Highway closed, Canning Stock Route closed. So Brian and Karen decided they'd come down with us to our camp, which is 200 kilometres to the south. But prior to that, we stayed overnight in the caravan park and had a shower, and left the next morning and went back out the Gun Barrel Highway, turned onto the Darlow Road, and proceeded down to our camp. And Brian and Karen had 2 or 3 days with us before they turned around and went north again to pick up the Canning Stock Route. Robbie, my mate from Geraldton, came through from Geraldton to meet us there, and bought us a few beers that we'd run out of, and so we spent several weeks in our camp, and before heading back to civilization, you might say. But we enjoyed a couple of weeks there and found a little bit of gold, and had a relatively good time, and dreamt about what we could have done out in Central Australia if it hadn't been so wet. But given time and build up a bit of cash again, we'll plan another trip out to Central Australia for sure. And overall, we travelled many kilometres. We had one puncture with 3 vehicles. Well, two vehicles, Neil and myself, for most of the trip, but Karen and Brian. So no punctures, and the road was quite horrendous, really. No breakdowns, so no injuries. So we, all in all, a successful trip, and no doubt we'll learn from this. We'll experience from this, and we've already know some things we will do and some things we won't do next trip. So until that time, maybe 2008, we'll finish off with the last of the pictures and a bit of music. See ya, and bye to Lindy and Sam and Brian and Karen. We'll catch up with you again one day.